Hello, we appear to be live, which is good and happening. Oh, I see a few early arrivals. Hello, musical aviator and crossfitter. Just getting stuff set. I did send the advance notice out for this one. And hey, Frank. Ooh, you got a new lap? Oh, I saw you saying that on Facebook. That you got a new laptop, nice, and BT broadband, probably about 1,000 times better than Australian broadband. And hello, Megaleech, Sean, Patman, bunch of folks coming in relatively early. Nice to see, nice to see. Just kicking back. Here we go. Got everything ready. And Shellformer, hello, Notification Squad, and hello, Tara and Tendai. Man, you are all super prompt this evening, which is nice to see. How's everyone's week been? Yes, mine's been the usual adventure, you know, fun and games at work. Nothing particularly exciting to announce this week. I don't know if anyone else has exciting stuff to report. But yes, okay. Do we want to lay bets now on troll level tonight? Will it be the normal, which would only be 1 or 2, or will it be one of those nights where we get a bit of a surge? And I can think of one particular event that will give the racist trolls in particular quite a woody and panorama. Hello, Charlie. Nice to see you. Tendai, you're starting to move from summer into cooler weather, whereas we're getting our first couple of days of mildly decent weather. I mean, tomorrow's rumored to get up to 20 Celsius for the first time this season here in Melbourne, but then it's meant to turn and give us a pretty bleak, windy, rainy weekend. But we'll see. Shuffle, maybe. Anyone going to the Melbourne International Film Festival? Not me. Although I'm going out to the movies on Saturday night. I'm going to see a new film that has Glenn Close in it called The Wife. And I think I'm going to get some Mexican food for dinner. Near my place, there's a cinema with a few good food options, and there's a Mexican place. It's actually run by Mexican people, which is not that common in Melbourne. There are a few I've been to around about Mexican places run by Mexican people, but yeah. What's that, Tara? You recorded a clip. It's not easy being a Christian to wind up the trolls. They're pretty easy to wind up. Oh, Sean, you haven't checked the last few live streams. That's okay. I mean, we talk about anything and everything in the live streams. And there was a particular, I think you might get into this because there was a particular thing about movies I wanted to talk about tonight. We sort of just got to it at the end of Tuesday night's live stream, and I wanted to pick it up tonight. The public transport's all shit tomorrow, music later. Well, I'm actually working from home tomorrow. I just have to do some document reviews, and I just said to my boss, cool, if I do that from home? And he said, yes. Hey, Blogan. Tendai, quesadilla with jalapenos. I might get a quesadilla. I am wussy white person and do not like super hot stuff like jalapenos. So this place does just super nice food. Now, I think if you like it spicy, they do it super spicy for you, but they do white person mild for you as well. And it's just super tasty. Hey, Barry, how's it going? Pat talks. Do I think public transport should be free? Well, I guess, honestly, my short answer is yes. At the very least, it should be tax deductible. Because, okay, I work as a contractor, so I have my own business, and so I can claim virtually everything. I claim it's an expense. I need it for my business. But okay, I can claim the expense of my car. I have to drive to work, so I claim my car payments, and I claim petrol. I claim maintenance on my car. These are all things that I get tax deductions for, but I don't get tax deductions for using public transport. I mean, I think public transport should be like, you should get like 150% tax deduction just to encourage people to use it. Like if you buy an annual ticket, should definitely be a tax deduction. Ah, damn, Frank, you had to reboot. I did see your initial comment, Frank. You got your new laptops all gung ho, almost as good as a desktop. So, yeah, shelf warmer. I do agree with you. A good halfway point would be maybe not make it free, but privatizing public transport was a fucking farce. That was a scam. James, you just heard about Alex Jones being in trouble with all these social media things. Yep, that's pretty funny. They all went him at once. Yeah, he got. I think the order it went. I think Apple was the first one to bite the bullet. And they kicked his podcasts off iTunes because a bunch of people pointed out rightly the stuff on those podcasts breached the terms of service. So Apple did it, and then I'm not sure the order it went in. I think Facebook went first, next, I should say, and then I think it was Spotify and then YouTube. There was a little delay, but they were all in 24 hours, which I find fucking hilarious. Hey, Sebastian. Yeah, exactly, right? The privatizing of our energy grid was supposed to lead to lower prices because of competition, and all our energy prices fucking doubled. Yes, that's a good line, musical aviator. I like that. The truth is, Alex Jones hasn't got banned from anywhere. He's free to use all of them. He's just making up the incident. He's a crisis actor. Logan, Alex Jones was not kicked off the site for lying. Alex Jones was kicked off the sites for hate speech and inciting attacks on other people, I think is what it was. And CNN did neither of those. And besides, you can argue, if you like, major news outlets use inaccuracies or tell untruths, but not even Fox News compares to Alex Jones's level of outright lies. And in fact, he said himself, Alex Jones said himself, because he is currently on trial for slandering the parents of kids who were killed at Sandy Hook, and he's got another libel or slander case. And his defense, much like his defense in his child custody battle, was no rational person would believe the things I say on my videos, radio show, podcasts. His own words are no rational person would believe what he says. He does that stuff for entertainment. Barry Gills, there's no doubt Alex Jones lies all the time, but that's not why he was kicked off the various social media sites. He was kicked off the social media sites for basically hate speech and causing harassment of people. Oh, yeah, shelf warmer. Fucking ticket inspectors are the scum of the earth. Good old Melbourne trams used to have the conductors on them who were super nice, and they got rid of them because they weren't cost effective. And yeah, the ticket inspectors now are fucking shit. I think that's the lowest of the low in Melbourne. If you want to be a social pariah, it's like drug dealers, pedophiles, and ticket inspectors are at the bottom. But I mean, it's just like, yeah, it's the whole thing about saying good people take on that role. It's like trying for the Nuremberg defense. Toby, what are we talking about? Well, Frank is talking about having sex with ticket inspectors with big tits. Frank? Really? Okay. Oh, CrossFitter, I'm glad you like the word smugwit. I put a little bit of effort into coming up with that. Friend Eva was talking about this. She was talking about the InfoWars correspondent who was saying this ridiculous shit about all you people saying the freedom of speech laws don't apply to Facebook because it's a private company, not a public company. Well, you're owned, libtards. Look, here, I found the listing information page on Facebook says it's a public company, which means it's publicly traded on the stock exchange. It's a private company that's publicly traded as opposed to a private company that's held in private hands and not traded. Like when people do that separation between public and private, they mean the difference between private enterprise and government owned. And this InfoWars idiot wouldn't shut up and was really aggressively proud, saying anyone who thought she was wrong was stupid. It was absolutely bizarre. And that's where smugwit comes in. Buckwits who are smug about their stupidity, just fiercely proud of their ignorance. It's really disturbing. Hello, Mr. Grant. I'm glad you're back again. Ah, Toby, how's Aidsy? I did actually talk to Aidsy this afternoon. And he has had various health problems and whatnot. I'm going to try and get him over for a live stream, maybe on a weekend. Not necessarily this weekend, but sometime soon. Because he's not well, so he doesn't like going out on his own. So actually, because he lives sort of other side of town to me, so I'd drive over and get him and then bring him back and do a live stream on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. So we'll see how that goes. Shell format, does Zuck owe us some dividends? Well, we're the product on the Facebook thing. There's that old line, if you think you're getting something for free and you can't work out who's actually paying for it, you're the product. And in terms of using Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, we, the site users, are actually the product. We are being sold to advertisers. And it's important to be conscious of that. If you're conscious of it and you're okay with it, that's fine. But if you don't realize it, you need to realize that in terms of Facebook particularly, we are the product. We are being sold. That's why we get all the amenity of the site without paying for it, because we're actually the Facebook site is not the product. We, the people on the site, are the product. We're being sold to advertisers. And if you're okay with that, that's fine. You know, it's capitalism. Who still follows Alex? Well, I think it's safe to say that well in excess of people, 90% of people who buy into Alex Jones's bullshit would also be Trump supporters. I think that's a safe bet. I'm not saying 90% of Republicans believe Alex Jones, but I think it's a fair bet that over 90% of Alex Jones supporters are also Trump supporters. But yes. Frankie, what mischief is Aidsy up to? Oh, it's just the usual. He's trying to keep things going, and is you know, few health misadventures and shenanigans. But if I can get him over, get him to speak for himself. I don't know if I will be able to this weekend. My goal is, if I don't get him over this weekend, I'll get him over the following weekend. So no shelf warmer. Unfortunately, he's not feeling better. He's feeling quite bad. Sean, how do we lick a SoundCloud song? It's easy. You just make sure that your listening device is waterproof and you lick it repeatedly. Pat Talks, what's wrong with Trump? That's a big question. What's wrong with Trump? Geez, where to start? He's a narcissistic, pathological liar. Oh God, Logan Paula, you're buying an audio thing to make remixes of me. Oh, the mind boggles. There have been a few done over the years. Some negative, some positive. Probably my favorite positive one was done by a dude from Germany who, and this was like 10 years ago. He did it. He did like hard style dance remix of my first anti-Nazi video, which was probably like from my first year on YouTube. Yes, Megaleech remixed to me. Quite a few people have, but this like German electro hardstyle electro dance music mob called Antisize, and yeah, they did a remix of me called Nazi Bastards. And it's funny because I don't know if you know, hardstyle is not so popular anymore. This is about 10 years ago. And it's a pretty hard driving bang, bang, bang sort of dance pop music. Mr. Grant, do I have any Nazis in my area that I know of? Well, I mean, in Melbourne generally, yeah, because they show up to the rallies. And again, people go, are you just calling people you don't like Nazis? No, these people with swastika tattoos who do the Sieg Heil and Hitler salutes and whatnot. They're about my actual area where I've lived in like the eastern suburbs of Melbourne for the last 10 years. This is like the Jewish area of Melbourne. So it wouldn't do to be overtly Nazi in this area. No. But that doesn't mean they're not here. They're just not, oh my God, Logan Paul, that's old stop. Must not fat. That's the thing I did years ago, and people were trying to meme it. Exactly, Shelf Warmer. You don't really want to be an open Nazi around Malvern, Caulfield, East St Kilda, simply because of the fairly large Jewish problem. I think it's the largest Jewish enclave in Australia, the whole area stretching from East St Kilda to Caulfield. Doesn't mean they're not here, they're just not very out in the open. Toby, letting us know, Celtic King says he wants to finger AngryAussie's arsehole. I tell him he has to behave. You know, not that I'm not flattered, but you know, Mrs. Angry and I are monogamous, and it's honestly not the way I swing anyway. Even if I was single, but, you know, doesn't mean it's not flattering. So you know, pass on that. You know, I always appreciate you. Always appreciate his lustful advances. It's just I hope he can cope with the disappointment of it being a thing that's not going to happen. So yes, Tendai, bash to the fash. So someone reshared recently. There was a really funny routine done by Arma Rahman, an Australian comedian. I'm not sure of his background. I think his family background might be Pakistani, but he's Muslim, and he's been doing really funny comedy in Australia for years. I think he's actually got a Netflix special coming out, so look out for that if you're a Netflix person. If he mentioned it the other day on Twitter, if you get a Netflix special for Arma Rahman, he's very funny, and he released this routine on the internet a year or so ago. and it was about punching Nazis, and it's hilarious. And it's like people say, he says, like, people say, punching Nazis, is that something we should really do? Well, yeah. And they say, but no, Army, you can't punch Nazis. If you punch Nazis, who's next? And he goes, I don't know, more Nazis? That would be good. Just punch more Nazis. And what it is, he says, what is with the people who make it their task to be uh, safety officer for Nazis? What the fuck is that about? It's just, of all the things to agonize about, yes, Logan Paul, you should tell us your Hitler joke. Of all the things to agonize about, um, Nazis getting punched is a really weird thing to use up your mental and emotional energy on it. That's a good comeback, Toby. Tara said, Celtic Kings to try hard. Comeback is, he is a try hard. He thinks Tara's worth trying hard for. Nice. Yes, musical area. We all kind of had that delusion that the actual war with the Nazis might have ended them. Didn't actually work out that way. Okay, Logan Paul's Hitler joke. What is Hitler's favorite beverage? Are you going to say, well, it's not juice? Oh dear. Yeah, the Death Raider, the punching Nazis thing. That was the funny bit in, well, one of the funny bits in Armor Ramen's punch Nazis routine. Okay, Logan, what was Hitler's favorite beverage? Orange juice, 100% concentrate. I would have thought that he hated juice. I thought he was on record as saying he hated juice. Orange juice, pineapple juice, just wasn't a juice guy. Oh, Frank, no more Nazi jokes. They make you furious. Oh, the puns, Frank, the puns. Oh dear. Hey, Empress Ega, we're just, well, we're in the middle of talking about what a positive thing it is to punch Nazis. The part I was going to say in the Armor Ramen routine, he talked about when Richard Spencer got punched, he thought it was magical because he was being interviewed and he was just explaining or attempting to explain his Pepe the Frog pin that he was wearing. They're trying to explain a pin to the journalist, and when the guy ran up and punched him, so Spencer, in the middle of trying to explain a meme, got turned into a meme. Empress Ego, it's funny, Hitler had a favorite beverage. Oh my God, I've heard that reference of Fanta being linked to the Nazis, which is super weird, super weird. Mr. Grant Gregory, Richard Spencer is a Nazi. He lies and says he isn't, but he has previously published and since tried to hide white supremacist polemics calling for the extermination of other races. He's been recorded at public events, doing a Sieg Heil and saying in English, "Hail victory, hail Trump." So he is, in fact, a Nazi, and he's also a coward. Locust Trooper, how's it going? We're doing good. Doing good. We're off and running. Just having a nice time moment. I'm drinking a drink that I've decided to call Blue Poles. First, obviously, because it's blue, but second, because it's made out of these. Look, I'll show you. I've still got some of them left. Some rock candy. It's peppermint rock candy. They're called peppermint polar bears. So I'll see if you can see it. It's really intricate. I'll put it right in there. No. Yeah, I think you can see that. See, they've made this little polar bear in the middle of the rock candy, and I dissolve them in vodka. So it's peppermint vodka. So it's blue poles. Death Raider, how many Sudanese does it take to start right? Well, that's the thing that I expected trolls to come in on me tonight. Because see what happens. There's this thing where lying, racist, conservative politicians and conservative media outlets have been pushing this racist lie for a while that Melbourne, in particular, has this out of control crime problem driven by Sudanese gangs. Now, there are issues within the Sudanese community that the actual Sudanese community and the police are working on. But the concept of there being out of control crime and people scared to leave their houses is bullshit. Like in the crime stats, and crime stats have been going down in Victoria. It's like 1% of crimes is committed by people of Sudanese background, whereas like 67% is committed by Australian people. So it's like there are thousands of crimes being committed by Australian people, and I think that in the last year there was like 800 committed by Sudanese. But there was this incident. It was like just last night or the night before, or a bunch of, I think they were basically school kids, like between 12 and 18, decided to have a bit of a to-do. And it's like some super weird thing, like after we've had a day to calm down and find out what it's about, it's just like some kids have some fight about girlfriends or something, and at the center of it were these two girls who got to have a fight, and they started off, they were going, they'd said like on social media, they were meeting up at like the Water Gardens shopping mall or something, and the cops were there. So they're supposed to, they got on a bus, and then they ended up out in the western suburbs, which is where they say, "Oh no, out of control, Sudanese crime," and ended up in a park with a basketball court, a group of somewhere around 50 to 100, and they were kids. These are like 12 to 18-year-olds. These kids had a bit of a to-do. And look, hey, that happened in my neighborhood. I would not be happy. These teenagers acting like fucking shitheads. They need their shit sorted. There's bullshit. But as the police pointed out, well, actually, no, a police car got damaged. These kids threw rocks at a police car. Well, we don't even know what damaged means. Is that a dent, broken windshield, broken headlight? What is it? But there was no damage to public property. There was no threat to the public there, and there was no crimes beyond being rowdy. But they're still shitheads. Particularly the instigators of this, whoever the ringleaders of this whole thing causing a scene, they're fucking shitheads, and they need to get their shit sorted. But yes, it's still not out of control African crime. Logan Paul, your mum needs to understand that women can rape. This is, again, jumping, as we often do. Logan Paul is asking, can women rape men? Yes, they can, in a number of different ways. Women can commit violent offences, can commit sexual offences against men, and it's important that it's taken seriously. And I am not happy with people who would try to suggest that women can't do those things because it devalues people who've been on the receiving end of it. That's bullshit. Yes, sorry, what was his name again? Saying that the Sudanese youth are overrepresented. They are 0.1% of the population being involved, according to the crime statistics, in 1% of the crimes is overrepresentation. But it's not a question of overrepresentation. The media and conservative politicians have been lying, not making a mistake. They know they are lying. They have deliberately fabricated these racist lies to appeal to racists and to whip up racism because they think they'll win votes from it. They've told and continue to tell the blatant lie that there's out of control crime with African gangs. It is simply not true. That is a complete fucking lie, and it's a racist lie designed to appeal to racists, and anyone who gets sucked in by it, it's either their latent or overt racism that makes them believe it. So yeah. Logan Paul, having the penis has nothing to do with it. There are a variety of ways a man can be raped or sexually assaulted by a woman. And it's very retrograde to suggest otherwise. And now you're just sideways saying we should stop immigration of any color. No, the growth of our economy, relies on a certain level of immigration. It would destroy our economy, or at least stall our economy, if you stopped immigration. So there you go. Oh God, yeah, Sebastian, with refugees chucking kids over again. The lies. The shit we're seeing now is all John Howard's fault. Oh, Frank, lunch is over. You're off to work. I'm glad to actually coincide with your lunch, mate. Thanks for dropping by. Yeah, all the bullshit racism and anti-immigration shit we're getting now is all John Howard's fault. John Howard saw votes in it back in the 90s, whipped up racist sentiment with a bunch of fucking lies, and Australia has never recovered from it. It is definitely that little prick's fault. John Howard is a piece of shit. Yeah, Shell Former, you hit on it there. It helps disenfranchised white people feel superior and not look at their real enemies, their bosses. I think that was a line from it's basically in America, the Republican Party's Southern strategy. The unspoken or sometimes explicitly spoken line is what they try and whip up disenfranchised poor working whites in the South is just to sell them the idea the lowest white person that is better than the most high achieving black person. That's the Republicans have fed that sort of division since the civil rights movement. Pretty shit. Death Raider, what's the view on an ethno-state? That's a thing that racists talk about, basically. And yes, it's a destructive and regressive concept. And yes, and then a lot of white racists will then point to some not white countries that are basically ethno-states, if not literally ethno-states, and that's to the detriment of those countries as well. That's the famous case, Logan Paula. That woman, she recently got jailed forcing her ex to have sex with her holding a machete to his neck. But yes, women can sexually assault and rape men, and it's really shitty to suggest they can't. Tendai, have I heard what happened to Black Wall Street? Not specifically. So I assume you're going to inform us. Legal stupid. Isn't all politics evil? Well, I'm. It depends on your definitions. I'm of the belief that life is politics, and when people say, "Oh, I'm not political," what they're saying is, "I'm happy with the status quo. I'm happy with the existing power structures." That's a political statement. When people say, "Oh, I'm not political," that's actually a political statement, because what they're saying is, I'm happy with the status quo. I support the existing power structures. So I don't believe anyone is not political. It's when people say they're not political, what they're saying is, oh, I support the current power structures. And that's a political decision. So that, and again, look, people can argue semantics and argue various different things, but I just think life is politics, basically. So I don't think it's possible to not be political. And I think, as I said, people who say they're not political, what they're actually saying is, I support the current status quo. I support the current power structures. And that's a political statement. There you go. Hey, and while we're talking about things to race, that actually ties in with a thing I wanted to talk about uh, that we just kind of got to at the end of Tuesday night's live stream, but I want to talk and specifically in terms of one movie. But it's the idea of when in movies they recast roles, and I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. And there's a phrase that's often used called whitewashing, where there's an adapted work, a movie's being made from a previously existing work, and there's a role that's meant to be non-white and ends up getting played by a white actor. Or some people argue against the thing with actors playing actors who don't have disabilities, playing roles where they are disabled. And hey, Game of Frost, how's it going, man? And the one I really wanted to talk about was the film by the Wachowskis, which is called Cloud Atlas. Now, it's based on a book, and it tells stories over multiple time zones from the past to the distant future. And the idea, the same actors are in each story in the past, present, near future, and far future. And it's the same actors are in each one, and they're playing different roles. And there's this idea that the same things keep happening over and over. And some of the actors in it are black, some are white. I think there's one Asian actor in it. And one of the stories they tell in the future is set in Korea, I think. And because they only have one Asian actress in there, uh, they do prosthetic makeup for a lot of the other actors, both black and white, to have them be Asian characters. And that really upset a lot of Asian people. They said, and they just said, that's awful. Why not cast Asian people? And this is a specific case where I think people are missing the point of the film. Now, as someone brought up Ghost in the Shell, and that's a classic. I think the leads in that should have been Asian, and casting white actors in the roles is ridiculous, and it is just a classic example of whitewashing. But I think people were missing the point in Cloud Atlas. It was specifically having the actors appear in each world. So they did have, I think they had at least once one of the black actors was in whiteface. I know the Asian actress, she was in whiteface right at the end of the movie. I think they might have had a white actor in blackface, and they had multiple white actors and black actors in yellowface in the bit that said in New Soul. And in the abstract, you can say, "Oh, that's terrible," but I think when people get really worked up about this specific example, Cloud Atlas, they're missing the point of the film. It was integral to the film that the same actors appear in each of the stories. And so the only alternative to them not doing Yellowface was to not set anything in Asia. And they were trying to have diversity of settings and locations. And I think the Wachowskis made it kind of obvious what they were trying to do, because in the last bit of the story, they have the Asian actress in whiteface. And she is in that last scene in the context of the movie, although you can clearly see she's Asian, but like wearing white face makeup, she is not playing an Asian character. She's playing a white character. Both her parents are white. And I feel like the Wachowskis tried to make obvious what they were doing. And you can argue the degree of success they had in it. But I think people who just point blank say, "Oh, the yellow face was terrible and inexcusable," I honestly think in this specific case, they're missing the point of what the filmmakers are trying to do. You can argue the degree of success they have in it and whether it was worth doing, blah blah blah. But when people, I think sometimes have really shallow arguments about Cloud Atlas, I think they're missing the point. So, Empress, you think it's despicable? People seem to be more offended. Oh yeah, yeah. Asian people are really badly underrepresented in Hollywood in terms of their population in the US. But yeah, people who get upset at Asian people pointing that out are real dickhead. And that's right. Actually, yeah, Sean, you're right. There's also cross-gender work in Cloud Atlas. So I often think about Cloud Atlas. I think people miss the point. Oh, CrossFitter, Great Wall. That was just a pretty fucking terrible movie. Yeah, the Matt Damon bit. Yeah, that was the thing. Like, oh, we're going to set this movie about the Great Wall, but we feel like we can't sell the film unless there are white actors in it. But yeah, there's obviously, like 90% of the cast was Asian, and I think the crew was Asian. But yeah, I just think Great Walk's not a great movie. Oh my God, Shelf Warmer, you have probably hit on the #1 appalling yellow face thing in all of Hollywood history, Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Oh my God, Breakfast at Tiffany's is broadly a good movie with some very groundbreaking stuff, but the Mickey Rooney stuff is fucking terrible. Unfortunately, I think even John Wayne in the film played a samurai or something, and he wasn't supposed to be a Westerner like Tom Cruise in The Last Samurai. I think John Wayne was meant to be Japanese, and I can't remember the name of the film, but yeah, that was a bit of a misadventure. But yes, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a worse one than Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's. That's right, Sean, Genghis Khan. Thank you. John Wayne played Genghis Khan. How fucking disturbing is that? Sorry, Charlie, you're saying even John Wayne apologized for how bad Genghis Khan was. Oh dear. I have a friend of mine who was a real movie buff. He was American and he liked John Wayne, but he used to love making fun of John Wayne as well. Like in was it The Greatest Story Ever Told, a Bible film that all the big names in Hollywood wanted to be in, even if they made a small part. And John Wayne was like a Roman at the foot of the cross where Jesus is being crucified. And like John Wayne's line is, "Truly, he was the Son of God." It's like such a shitty line, so shittily delivered, just absolutely terrible. Everything got, you're right. That hits it on. It's like people being upset at the Marco Polo film for focusing on a European character when they should have focused on it just being really fucking terrible. Oh my God, Empress Ego, you almost made me choke on my drink. Makes you feel better that everyone on the set of The Conqueror probably got cancer from the nuclear plant down the way from where they filmed. Well, what was it? There was a John Wayne film that was filmed where they did the nuclear tests in the US and they thought people all got cancer from it. Oh, Sean, that's what you were going to say, that everyone on the Conqueror got cancer from the nuclear plant down the way. Oh my God, that's awful. That's awful. Oh my God, Joe Former, John Ford. They made you sit through Yellow Ribbon and Stagecoach. John Ford had great films. Why would they make you sit through them? John Ford had great films. Oh, Locust Trooper, the new Wonder Woman. It's Wonder Woman 1984, isn't it? I'm looking forward to it because I'm like an 80s kid. So I'm looking forward to all retro 80s stuff in that. Joel, you turned into a gay frog. I'm not sure, mate. Haven't you always been a gay frog? I don't know. Oh yeah, Tendai, the USSR and their nuclear tests, there are rumored to be whole parts of the former USSR that are still, so like you can't drive through them because of the latent radiation. Sean, the Informer. What is the Informer? Oh, you're waiting for VR and AI and have fantasy worlds. You may well be right. All right, Toby, you and Celtic King are heading off. Look after yourself, lads. Yeah, I like some of the old westerns. What have I watched recently? Some classics. The Magnificent Seven. I saw the original again not long ago. It was pretty damn good. Uh, uh, I like some of the spaghetti westerns, like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And there's a lesser known one, which is marketed as either A Fistful of Dynamite or Duck You Sucker. It's got George Papard in it. No, it's not George Papard. What's his name? But yeah, it's a really full-on political film, much more than most of the spaghetti westerns. Oh yes, Charlie, the Trinity films. The Trinity films are classic spaghetti westerns. Yes, Sean, Duck You Sucker is directed by Sergio Leone, and it's way more political than the other Leone films. You got the guy who's an IRA bomber who gets involved with Mexican revolutionaries. And it's at times very bleak because it basically brings home when you're a revolutionary, that means almost everyone involved is going to be killed. Pat Talks, which parts of Melbourne do I dislike most? I don't know, man. I don't hang out in places I don't like. Yeah, I don't think there's a place. I mean, there might be places I wouldn't like if I hung out there, but I don't hang out anywhere I don't like. So I wouldn't like to be way out in the perimeter suburbs. That's not my thing. I'm a bit suburban, but I don't want to be way out in the perimeter suburbs. You're right, Tendai. Duck You Sucker sounds like a blaxploitation film. But it comes from, there's this great moment where the Mexican Bandito family hold up a stagecoach of these obnoxious rich people who've been insulting this one Mexican guy, and they take it over, and then this guy comes along on a motorcycle and just goes past them. They ignore him, and they, hey, gringo, stop, and he ignores them, and they shoot like the engine of his bike, and he stops, and he's just like, why'd you do that? And he just walks over to the stagecoach, goes inside it for a while, then comes out and says to the boss of the Mexican group, "Duck, you sucker." And they're like, "What?" And the stagecoach just explodes. They're like, "What the fuck did you do?" And they all pull guns on him and say, like, "We're going to get you for that." And he goes, "I don't recommend it." They go, "Why wouldn't we shoot you?" And he holds open his jacket. He's got like nitroglycerin strapped around him, and that's how he blew up the stagecoach. And they're all pointing guns at him. He goes, "Shoot me," and this mountain turns into a crater. So they end up working together. It's very bizarre, but yeah, it's just his line, "Duck, you sucker." Venice, you have internet. Hurrah! I'm saving you from watching the footy show. Nice. Logan Paul, you're into the whole singularity stuff with the quantum computers and whatnot. It may be true. Who knows? Who knows? I think there's a bit of magical thinking involved there. I think I've said before, but yeah, maybe. Who knows? The future. I mean, when you look at some of the stuff that's being done in research labs, where the circuits. I mean, like we've been reducing circuits so much in the last couple of decades, but there are where quantum computers will come from is the circuits don't even exist physically. The circuits are light, and when it's actually about beams of light, then we could theoretically pass get past any limits of processing power because you end up going beyond the physical limitations of wires and circuits and whatnot. And there's some very, very interesting stuff happening in labs on that front. So who knows where we will end up with technology? You know, maybe we'll be stupid and wipe ourselves out in the next couple of decades anyway. Empress, if you're not a cyborg god emperor by 2030, you're going to get into people's houses and wreck the place. Fair call. Fair call. Joel, I don't know. The double slit experiment. This is the debate on can light be both a particle and a waveform. I don't know, dude. The outer reaches of science are pretty goddamn weird. And there are people like exploring multidimensional stuff. Like humans are really only capable of understanding the 3 dimensions we exist in. And we're also really only capable of comprehending time as a linear thing. But there's an enormous amount of science that explores the possibilities of, 9, 10, 11 dimensions. Also exploring the idea that although we are experiencing time in a linear function, time is not actually linear. And it's concepts that just make your head go. So Pat, my thoughts on Aussie internet, that's pretty simple. Shit, man. We have been ripped off with shitty internet. But yes. When you worry about brain chip stuff, I get very Borg-like. I mean, honestly, one of the funniest things I ever read was someone talking about, Star Trek, the Borg are the ultimate baddies because they take you over and morph you. Think about the way the humans are, man. Borg would not even be the bad guys, or we'd be the Borg. Humans do what they can, whether it's a good idea or not. As soon as humans see they're able to do something, they do it. There's not any real thought of if it's a good or a bad time. You look at the history in advances in medicine happened because of just experimenting on people. Both medicines and surgery are the result of just experimenting on humans. And there's a doco on Netflix called the Bleeding Edge, and it's about medical prosthetics and implants and whatnot being a bit of a Wild West thing, and people being hurt by things that are meant to help them. But humans have always done that. Humans have always done, I'm going to do something that's completely fucking unethical because I think it's cool and it might work. Oh, well, that person died. Fuck it. I'm going to try again on the next one. That's how medicine has advanced. So stuff like the Borg, we will be the Borg. We'll be the ones that just go like, oh, I'm augmenting myself. I'm boosting my brain. I'm distributing my brain. I'm doing a bionic fucking implant. I'm cutting off my perfectly functional arm to put a bionic arm on there. Humans will do it. And cloning, humans will do that in a heartbeat. As soon as it gets reliable, humans will do it. Yes, of course, you got the Higgs boson. Yes, doing things like the CERN lab, humans experimenting with shit like the Higgs boson particle when we don't actually know the full implications of what we're doing, but we fucking do it anyway. Sebastian, that's an interesting question. Did we gain medical knowledge from the Nazi scientists? Besides being unethical, most of the work the Nazi scientists is unreliable because they weren't being objective in their science. Everything was informed by and biased by Nazi ideology. So their research is very unreliable. Untendai, asking the big questions. If you have sex with your clone, is that masturbation? Yes, maybe. There's one of my favorite writers, guy who popularized the whole cyberpunk stuff, William Gibson. back in the 80s with books like the Neuromancer trilogy, and he's still writing, and his writing is still fantastic and groundbreaking. But in one of the Neuromancer books, I think it might have been the third one, where the protagonists are up on a space station that the super rich are on, and they find this guy, and these super rich have been perpetuating themselves with clones for a few generations. And so it's like, instead of being like, Queen Elizabeth III, if you're a clone, you're 3 Elizabeth, not Elizabeth III, you're 3 Elizabeth. It's the same person, but the third version of the same person. Yeah, they find this ultra rich guy, and there's a dead version of his daughter, and he basically says his little perversion is every couple of years he animates a clone body of his daughter, doesn't put sentience into it, but just activates it so it's alive, and then fucks her and kills her. So it's a very grey area of the law, but yes. Pat, that's a nice side question. How old was I when I had my first girlfriend? 19. I was quite late, as when I was at uni. I went through Catholic schools, and that Catholic guilt and repression really worked on me, and I was too scared to talk to girls all through school. It wasn't until I got to uni that I was able to go through school, go out with girls. What'll happen when the Queen dies? I don't know that she's an immortal vampire, Empress Seagull, but David Icke reckons she's a lizard person from the core of the earth. No, I reckon, I don't know how long Chuckles will stay king. Like, Queen Elizabeth dies, Prince Charles is next in line for the throne, and he's super unpopular. I think he might want to rule, or because his son is way more popular than him, he may abdicate quite quickly and just let his son William be king. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? What's that music day better? 11th August, 3:30. No Vacancy, Galax. Ex-girlfriend performing a monologue followed by new music by Melbourne performer Celestial Things. Nice. Nice. That's a good little plug you got in there. Sebastian, you're being a bit of an anti-royalist there. You want to guillotine the Queen. Fair enough. I don't give a shit about royalty bureau. I'm a Republican on that grounds. It is really bizarre we have a foreign monarch as our head of state. And for all the people who say it doesn't matter, it doesn't affect anything, it doesn't count, it's just symbolic, I point to November 11th, 1975, when the elected government was sacked by the Queen's representative, the Governor General, which was constitutionally legal. A completely unelected person, representative of a foreign monarch, sacked the government that was elected by the Australian people. So that's kind of bullshit. Hey, how's it going, Bunny? How you doing, man? Sebastian, you reckon the Queen didn't like Margaret Thatcher? I don't know. She, for all her shortcomings, the Queen is an amazing figure in modern history. When you look at the British prime ministers she's dealt with, from Winston Churchill on, in terms of heads of state, she is an amazing figure in history. I'm still a Republican, an anti-monarchist, because I just think constitutionally, politically, and legally, it's a very bad structure. But in the abstract, little Betty Windsor, or Capoodle Schnitzer, or whatever her family's real name is a unique and interesting figure in modern history. Oh God, I love that, Sebastian. The Queen just went to Thatcher's funeral to make sure she was dead. Emperor Seagate, you're an anarcho-syndicalist emperor. Looking forward to being overthrown any day now. Fair enough. Fair enough. That's okay. Do I sound really stuffed up like I sneezed because my nose is blocked up, and as I talk, it vibrates and tickles and is going to make me sneeze again. Aussie Gun Bunny, you've been having a holiday in Newcastle. How's that? I grew up in the country in a relatively small town in Western New South Wales, and we used to do our annual holiday in like the August September school holidays to a beach place on the central coast of New South Wales, not that far from Newcastle. And the big outing was the day we would go to Newcastle, visit the big city. Newcastle was a big, interesting, exciting city to us. So Newcastle was my holiday destination when I was a young'un. It was quite a long time until I don't know how old I was the first time I went to Sydney. It's like 14 or 15 or 16. I've got my photo album of my first trip to Sydney. I look like I'm about 14, I think. I don't remember exactly when, but I'm like 14 or 15 or 16. So we did not spend a lot of time in big cities till after I finished uni, and I've lived in big cities ever since. You're right, Pat. No trolls at all, really. Okay, gun honey. It's Newcastle is cold and miserable. Yeah, fucking Newcastle. For those who don't know, Newcastle is an industrial town. It was a steel town and a port town, so it's a very industrial city. Uh, a little bit bleak, and yeah, particularly in winter, right? Because it's got some beaches, so in summer you can have some good times in Newcastle, but it's a sort of bleak, dirty, industrial city. I used to where we went on holidays was a little bit away from Newcastle in an area known as Port Stephens, and there are some quite nice beaches and bays around there. It was a pretty good place to have holidays. I quite liked it. Like, sorry, we're talking about the drought. Yes, a lot of rural areas, particularly in Australia, are really brutally affected by drought at the moment. That's just a thing. I mean, it's Australia. Uh, there was a bad drought in the 70s. Now, and this is largely because of climate change, droughts are becoming more the rule than the exception. Up until the 70s, you used to get droughts, every couple of decades, there'd be a drought. There's a bad one in the 70s and, again in the 80s again. Now drought just seems to be a hazard of the regular way of life. I do remember when I was a school kid, again, because I grew up in Western New South Wales, when there was a drought in my area. And I was walking home from school one day. It started raining. And I realized as I walked, I have not walked in the rain for a long time. So I thought, oh, rather than running shelter, I'll just enjoy the fact there's actually rain. It hasn't rained for ages. I will just walk for a while. And then it just started pissing down, and I went, yep, no, 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 run for cover. Because that was the other thing. Dubbo, where I grew up, besides being drought prone, was also storm prone. I was a gun bunny. The net pot is that neti pot? Is that thing where you pour the liquid through your nose to deal with your sinuses? Is that how we got onto that? 10 to 8. No, you think scientists are saying it's almost too late to do anything about climate change? It is too late. We are basically facing an unavoidable situation that in the next 50 years, the death toll directly from climate change is likely to be in the millions. A lot of coastal areas, a lot of island nations are going to go underwater, and then there will be these desperate attempts to come up with some extreme solution rather than just doing simple shit we could do now, could have been doing for the last couple of decades. Will be way past the noise, or way past the point of no return. I think death toll will be in the millions, and the first couple of million will all be brown people. So again, the West won't care as much. But as everything gets more extreme, the cold gets more extreme, storms get more extreme, the droughts and wildfires get more extreme, then there'll be some, and maybe humans will come up with some desperate solution to slightly alleviate the extremes, or we're headed inevitably for some fucking Mad Max hellscape. CrossFit, you're right. London is actually at really high risk. London's a relatively low living. And yeah, and I live in Australia, where 90% of the population lives on the fucking coast. That's not good. Oh, you know what, guys? I am going to have to break. My blocked up nose feels so bad. I am going to have to get a tissue. Is that a box of tissues? Just here. Sorry. Hang on. Oh. All right. I found some tissues. This is going to be gross. I'm going to have to blow my nose. Which is a really gross thing to do in company. Whew. This is gross. I'll try and go off here rather than like that. So. Yeah. Clear that out a bit. That feels like it didn't help at all. Here's that quote from Ian Mel. Be clear, the planet's not in jeopardy. We're in jeopardy. We haven't got the power to destroy. No, as like we're basically staring at a mass extinction event. Like 75% of plant and animal species in the world dying out completely, and humans themselves being at critical risk. What we accept as our general way of life is definitely at critical risk, but the survival of the human species is at critical risk, basically. But how do we get on this bleak topic? Why can't we just like live in denial for a bit longer? I live in denial, and I believe I'll make myself a drink. I'm gonna get some ice first. So, my Bogan flannelette shirt. Ugh. Alright, I'm gonna make my favourite drink. Alright, here we go. Sendai, I think Europa and Titan are breathing a sigh of relief. Okay. Sebastian, you don't give a rat's if climate change is man-made. Okay. Or you're quoting someone. Is that what you're saying? Puree, yes. People having kids, if they've got any sort of conscience, would be feeling very bad at me. So, often I just want to drink. My all-time favorite drink, as in cocktail, is called a sidecar, which you do one part is traditionally an orange liqueur, like this is Cointreau, or you use triple sec or Grand Marnier. They're all orange liqueurs, but Cointreau's the traditional one, and then you use brandy or cognac. I'm just using a cheap brandy, actually. I suppose you could make it with a really expensive cognac if you wanted to, but I didn't want to. So brandy and a bit of lemon juice. I've got lemon juice in here. But I'm having, rather than a cocktail, I'm having it in a big glass. So lemonade. Look, we're not going to hit the gym. Yes. What do you mean? You think you can't tell from looking at me that I already hit the gym? No, I do. I do have to lose weight. There is zero doubting I am a fat bastard. It'd be foolish of me to pretend otherwise, obviously. But you know, actually, you have a bigger effect. I need to change my eating habits. It's like, why are you such a fat bastard? You go, well, I'm lazy and indulgent. And you can actually have a better effect by being less indulgent, like eating less shit, which is definitely a flaw of mine, which is a thing I need to work on first. And then work on the being a bit more active. When I went to the gym, I'd probably kill myself now. There is no getting around the fact I'm a fat bastard. So, yeah. Yeah, Sebastian, if we're worried about climate change, we could just read Andrew Bolt and he'd tell us it's not real. It's that old story about an evil cabal of scientists who use their devious science powers to fool the world into thinking climate change is a real thing with their evidence and measurements and observations. And the only thing between us and this terrible, terrible future of sustainability is some plucky billionaires and coal and oil companies who are going to protect the ordinary people. Good Lord. Sebastian asking, what's the point of moving to Mars if we just warm up Mars? I happen to, I love the idea of people saying, hey, what about if we're finding the evidence of water and possibly long dead life on Mars? What if Mars was our original planet and we destroyed it and we fled to Earth millennia ago? And we're just facing the same problems now that led us to destroy Mars millennia ago. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Pat talks. My thought on teenage pregnancy. I didn't do it. Not my fault. Not my fault. How did we get on to Q&A? I saw someone ask about Q&A. Sebastian, a reference to Q&A. Yeah, and you're right, Charlie. I don't watch Q&A because I find it so fucking frustrating. I have to spend the whole time restraining myself from throwing something through my own TV. And I don't want to destroy my own TV, so I don't watch Q&A because it tends to make me want to throw something at my own TV. Just because of the fucking horrible people that tend to get on it. And fucking obnoxiousness of Tony Jones. That guy's such a fucking narcissist. It's ridiculous. Oh, yes, you're right. Actually, Shellformer, Battlestar Galactica. True story. That's the reboot Battlestar Galactica, not the 70s version. Which is a bit of a spoiler alert for a show that's been off the air for a decade. Rewatched it not that long ago with Mrs. Angry, actually, the whole series, and yeah, it got really dark at the end, where they found Earth and it had been destroyed in a nuclear war, and but then they settled on another planet, which is our planet. This is why it's called Earth, and we remember it in our race memory, all these past stories. And that line that they keep saying in Battlestar Galactica, all of this has happened before and all of this will happen again. We have just this cyclical nature of our behaviour. Logan Paul, my thoughts on writing on porn. I actually don't know what you mean by that. Lex Strip, what do I think of Burger King fave Clive Barker comeback? Oh, God. Clive Palmer is such a piece of shit. Like, he's trying to model himself on Donald Trump, except no one likes him. It's just like, it's sad and pathetic. Clive Palmer is just fucking pathetic, basically. Oh, Logan Paul, you're just saying like a woman on top position, a woman riding pink. Man, if you don't get some diversity in your sexual positions, what's your story? It's weird. Oh, Pat talks with your football thing. What do you think about Andrew Gaff? That's a weird one. That's a sport one in Australia. For those who don't know, Australian rules football. This one dude just punched another dude in the face and like broke his jaw and smashed his teeth, which is just it doesn't happen really in the game. Everyone's all sorts of upset about it. But yes, Fury. Have you asked before, is it weird that you're cool with the dinosaur apocalypse over an ape apocalypse? Well, I didn't really want to face an apocalypse, but I know the dinosaurs did have their apocalypse. I don't want us to have one. Oh, Aussie Gun Bunny, what show would I like to see rebooted? Yeah, man, there's a lot. What was I talking to someone about just the other day? There are some that are really overdue for a reboot. I mean, you know, I'm like one of the people who's um, really sad about Firefly only ever got one season. I reckon there could be some good reboots, like do live action versions of some of those weird old Jerry Anderson shows, like Captain Scarlet or UFO. UFO was great because it was like made in the 60s or early 70s. I've got it on DVD, and it's got this really, and it was made in the 80s, and it's got this really uh, dynamic 80s sort of thing. Dun, 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 dun. So it was made 60s. And then you see a calendar, and I think it's set in 1984 or something. So it's absolutely hilarious what they think technology would be like in the 80s, and this show made in the 60s. UFO has some really funny camp stuff. The 18 did have a reboot. There was a movie version of it. No, there is a reboot of the X-Files. I watched the first episode of the new season of the X-Files, and it just did nothing for me. Oh, you're right. Yes, Tendai, Shelf Warmer. There were some computer-generated animated reboots of Captain Scarlet and Thunderbirds, but no, I'm talking about a live-action thing, particularly because for those who don't know, in Captain Scarlet, like the humans are all the heroes, and the enemies are from Mars. But the war between humans and the Martians was actually fucking started by the humans. Captain Black attacked them because he didn't know what they were, and it was unprovoked. And then we were at war. So even though it's us, the good guys, it's like we fucking started it. Emperor Seagull. Watching Marvel movies makes you wish there was a real Avengers to call upon for climate change. That's Captain Planet. We need Captain Planet for that. Oh yeah, Shelf Warmer. This is the voice of the Mysterons. The Mysterons were from Mars. They could reanimate dead humans to do their work for them. There's some concepts in Captain Scarlet which were fucking great, and you could do some really good stuff with. Logan Paul, you're talking about broadcast the War of the Worlds. Do you mean the Orson Welles radio play that people have famously exaggerated the effect it had? Like there's this, it was basically an urban legend that all of America panicked because of the Orson Welles radio dramatization of War of the Worlds. There's no documentary evidence that people panicked. There were probably individual people who freaked out a bit about it, There's like an urban legend that all over America, people panic the Martians are invading. People didn't think the Martians were invading. It was on the fucking radio. They thought it was a radio play. So yeah, all the stories of the public reaction have been exaggerated. Some people thought it was. Some people definitely thought it was real. But the idea of there being nationwide panic, there is no documentary evidence to support that. Oh yeah, Charlie, Jeff Wayne's musical version of the War of the Worlds. I listened to that so many times. My older siblings had that. I thought Jeff Wayne's musical version of the War of the Worlds was fucking great. Yes, Thunderchild with the ooh la. And then, of course, being a sci-fi nerd, I read H.G. Wells, and it was very interesting to see what bits Jeff Wayne used from the H.G. Wells and what bits were really different. Yeah, the Thunderchild was in H.G. Wells' version of the War of the Worlds. It was a warship, and it took down one Martian tripod basically by pure blind luck, and then the Martians blew it the fuck up. Oh yeah, fuck. Sorry, Sebastian. What did you talking about? You're still talking about Clive Palmer. Yeah, he's a fucking scammer. He owes people money. He's a piece of shit. Absolutely fucking garbage. Oh, Tara, you play War of the Worlds to clean the house. I remember a shared house I was in the 90s. Our house cleaning stuff was a couple of lines of Speed and then put on the Revolting Cocks album, Beers, Steers and Queers. Drugs aren't cool, kids. Don't do them. But yeah, this particular shared house I was in, that's what would happen. Do a couple of lines of Speed and then play the Revolting Cocks album, Beers, Steers and Queers. And just clean the house, man. Just clean the house. It's been a whole day cleaning the house. The house got really fucking clean. That's what I'm saying. Elon Musk is a corporate socialist. What is with that guy? Like, I understand. Oh, look, I understand someone who's super celebrity or super rich or like a super athlete or whatever. Their life is just so removed from us, so removed from ordinary people that we can't possibly relate to them. They can't possibly relate to us. That their life can't be like ours, and our life can't be like theirs. So people who may not be inherently bad do stuff, and you look at them and get, the fuck is your story? Like Elon Musk, it's like you get some people who worship him and some people who think he's Satan. Now look, okay, he's very anti-union, which I don't like. I'm very pro-union. He's very much made his wealth off other people, but he puts his money into some interesting stuff, and there may be some significant value to humanity come out of Elon Musk's work, but he keeps doing dumb shit as well. I saw that. I actually saw that, Charlie. Elon Musk is his full name is actually elongated muskrat. Yes. Oh, Shell Foreman. That's it. Howard Hughes syndrome. He was the first really high-profile, weird millionaire of the 20th century. Built himself up, built a big empire, and went off the rails. And clearly had some mental issues, quite honestly. Collected his urine in jars and all that sort of thing. Dendo, you think it'd be funny if Toyota bought Tesla after Musk insulted them? They kick him out. Well, wasn't he talking about wanting to buy all the shares in Tesla? He wanted to bring Tesla back into his control. But yes, Locust Trooper, you're looking forward to Battlefield 5 in October. Play the game off the. I don't know, man. The first-person shooters, I've not got that into. The games I've really enjoyed recently, I decided to finally finish Zelda Breath of the Wild. I did the final battle in that. Really enjoyed playing Breath of the Wild. Such a good game. I enjoyed Grand Theft Auto 5. I might even play that again sometime on a harder setting. I enjoyed Yakuza 0. I've got Mafia 3, but I think there's something wrong with the disc because it keeps freezing. I gotta go. I liked it at the start, but yeah, I don't know. And Brazil, you think Elon Musk is a Bond villain? I think Elon Musk thinks he's a Bond hero, and a lot of other people think he's a Bond villain, basically. But Tino, you think Hank Scorpio is a bit of Elon Musk? Hank Scorpio was based on Larry Ellison, um, the Oracle boss. It's not literally meant to be Larry Ellison, but a lot of Hank Scorpio's behaviors and lines were based on stuff that Larry Ellison. Now, you young folk probably don't even remember Larry Ellison. He's been out of the public eye for like a decade or so. But yeah, Hank Scorpio was actually based on Larry Ellison. Charlie, you know it's my bitters bottle. This is the standard bitters. This is just standard Angostura bitters. And yeah, it is weird that they make the label too big for the bottle. It's a weird thing. I've got, I think they're actually all in the other room. I've got like all these different flavored bitters. I've got a lemon flavored bitters, lime bitters, cranberry bitters. I like bitters in drinks. So yeah. And Prasiga, you like shooters that have more strategy and teamwork. You recommend Arma 3. Um, uh, yeah, I don't know, like, because I got the recent Doom and Wolfenstein, and I couldn't get into either of them. I played them a bit, but it's just this, oh my God, there's just this grind of running and shooting and getting killed. I didn't like it, whereas I really liked Grand Theft Auto 5 and Yakuza 0, like developing your character. I found that to be quite fun. Toby, your other account in Celtic Kings don't have the chat feature. I don't know what's happened there. You need to do the old Chombo challenge. Well, I'm sure you'll explain to me what that is because I don't know what that is. Oh, I tell you what, another game I want. I want a new Borderlands game because I loved Borderlands 2 and the Borderlands pre-sequel. They were heaps of fun. And I had all the DLC for those as well. Really like the Borderlands game. I want a new Borderlands game. That was, lots of fun. Even just weird, like some of the DLC for the Borderlands stuff was so out there. I don't know if anyone has played Borderlands 2. It was one of the weird characters you meet, Tiny Tina. It's this little girl who's gone quite insane. She's been living out in the wildlands, and her parents were both killed by bandits, and she's living by herself and always after revenge on bandits, wants you to kill bandits, wants to blow bandits up, and you help her and whatnot. And she's just like this wild, quirky character who wants to blow things up and kill bandits because they killed her parents. Haha. One of the bits of DLC was it's basically you play the game as like a Dungeons and Dragons thing, like it's a lull in the events of the game, and so you're playing the game, but it's a Dungeons and Dragons style representation of Borderlands, and Tiny Tina is the DM, and you go through it, and when you get to the end, there is this weird, unexpected emotional impact, where Tiny Tina's always been comic relief, but then you realize she's fucking broken because her parents were killed. You knew that, but then when you play Borderlands 2, a guy she sees as a replacement father figure gets killed in the game, and she's never recovered from that, and she's really fucking traumatized. And you're just playing this wacky Dungeons and Dragons version of Borderlands, and they just slip in this really brutal emotional impact if you suddenly realize Tiny Tina, who'd been your comic relief, is actually seriously broken and traumatized by what's happening. And you're like, fuck, what's this about? I wasn't expecting this. Yeah, it's really full on. Yes. What's that? Toby. It's a song by someone called El Chombo. It's an animated alien who dances, who dance like the alien. Probably not, dude. It's not really my thing. Logan Paul, what's Donald Trump's favorite game? Borderlands stuff. I'm sorry, dude. I didn't quite get that one. I didn't quite get that one. Mega Leech, I think you're on the money with that, but the way they've run side characters in Borderlands were playable characters in Borderlands 2. Side characters in Borderlands 2 were playable in the pre-sequel. So it would kind of make sense if Tiny Tina ended up being playable in Borderlands 3. I thought you were making a wall joke, Logan. Yeah, no, I get that. Yes, Toby, maybe you should do the El Chombo challenge. I don't see that as something I want to do. Tendai, you wanted Gearbox to put the same care into Aliens, Colonial Marines. The trouble with franchise stuff, like, stuff spin-off from movies. I mean, when was there ever a decent game that was a spin-off of a movie? Like, I really liked Star Wars Battlefront 2, Battlefront 2 particularly on the PlayStation 2. And according to virtually everything I heard, EA managed to completely fuck up Star Wars Battlefront for the PS4 by making it all pay to win type of thing. But in terms of movie spin off games, I don't think I've seen a better one than Star Wars Battlefront 2 for the PS2. I really enjoyed playing that one. It always makes me want to bring out my PS2 again and play it some more. And even some of the Star Wars games, like the first big Star Wars game was Dark Forces, where you're playing the dude who supposedly got the Death Star plans, which of course is not canon, because then we end up with Rogue One, the movie, which is the canonical version of how the Death Star plans were gathered. Oh, so we've got a few fans of the Alien games and Alien versus Predator. Okay. Shuffle. I never played Knights of the Old Republic. I know it's got a lot of fans, and I just really like the trailer for one of the versions of Knights of the Old Republic. That one where the Sith crash a spaceship into the Jedi temple, and all the Jedi run. And there's like a crashed spaceship, and you go, did anyone survive? And there's like just this dark hole in the side of the ship where the doors opened, and then there's just all these red beams, like boom, 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 all the Sith lightsabers light up. Just visually, that was fantastic. I really like that. I'd be worried there were other Kyle Katarn games, Jedi Outcast. And I actually had, what are the Darth Vader ones called? Brain go blank. I got one and never played it, which is kind of stupid. I do that occasionally. I think we all do that occasionally. You buy games, particularly if they're on sale, then you never play them. What was the Vader games called, where Vader had an apprentice? Force Unleashed. Thanks, Shelf Warmer. I had one of the Force Unleashed games and never played it. See, I had a Nintendo 64, but I never played. I never had GoldenEye. My first-person shooter on Nintendo 64 was Perfect Dark. I loved that. I played that through a couple times. It took me a while to get the hang of some of the special weapons, but I used to really get into Perfect Dark on the Nintendo 64. I guess my big games on the Nintendo 64 were Perfect Dark, Mario 64, Mario Kart 64, and the Zelda games, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Those were my big Nintendo 64 games. We still play them occasionally. Like my kids grew up with the Nintendo 64. And we still get it out occasionally and play it. Yeah, right, Aussie Gun Bunny. Perfect Dark was in gameplay very similar to GoldenEye. But yes. You bro, you like the Jedi Knight games, hacking people with lightsabers. In the 90s and PC, there were a couple of good space battle games, X-Wing and TIE Fighter, and X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. Those were some good space battle games. Yeah, I had a friend who was a real gamer, and he was more than a little bit aspy, and he used that to his advantage in playing video games. He would just remember, like, like fighting games where you have all the combos. He would memorize the combos like straight away. Like I'd have some fighting game on the Nintendo that I'd never really beaten, and he'd sit on it and play it, and he'd work out the fight moves, and within a couple of hours he would be beating the final boss with a flawless victory because he would just remember all the button combos for the power moves. It was freaky to watch. And when he played X-Wing and TIE Fighter and X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, it's like when you're flying around and when someone fires missiles at you, you can either try and outrun them, or you can you release countermeasures, chaff or flares to make the missiles detonate. If he was flying around, if someone fired missiles at him, he would flip and fly straight at them and shoot the missiles down. I would just watch him and go, how the fuck did you do that? Like, if someone's shooting missiles at me, I'm like, fuck. And I'm trying to get away, and I'm dropping countermeasures, chaff and flares to try and detonate the missiles. Whereas he's playing, if someone fired missiles at him, he just flip and fly straight at them and shoot their missiles down. And I was like, oh, okay. That's really fucking harnessing your Asperger's syndrome to just to see patterns and attack them. It's really full on. I like that, Aussie No Money. Most fun playing games, knocking back drinks with mates and thrashing Guitar Hero, or with the drum ones, yeah. And they were all enjoying force choking stormtroopers and throwing them off buildings or into the ceiling. We all love force choking. I think technically Jedi can do that, but it's it's regarded as a bit of a douche move that only Sith do. The old force joke. Oh my god! Just out of left field, I remembered. I got The Last Jedi on Blu-ray. Fucking great movie. Fuck you if you don't like it. You don't know a good movie. I just rewatched it recently, and it's got so many hours of bonus features. And there's deleted scenes, and there's a great one where Finn and his psychic are trying to infiltrate the First Order ship. They're wearing uniforms, and they're going up in an elevator, and some stormtroopers get on, and a stormtrooper recognizes him, FN 118. And Finn reckons this is all going pear-shaped. He knows I'm a traitor and whatnot. But the guy never knew that he was a traitor. They just went through training together, and because Finn's wearing an officer's uniform, he goes, man, I never took you for officer material, but look at you. You're an officer now. Cool. And it's such a shame that didn't make the movie because it's a really funny scene. Because it's really tense. Are they going to get found out? And a stormtrooper recognizes him, but a stormtrooper reckons he stayed in the First Order the whole time and just got promoted to be an officer. It was really funny. Charlie saying, did Luke force choke the guards at Jabba's palace? I don't think he force choked them, but he did mind control people and flick them away. Yeah, Bruce Cigar, aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper? I'm a little short for a stormtrooper, quite honestly. Aussie Gun Bunny used to play the Star Wars MMO. If you spat at Darth Vader, he'd force choke you. He choked them a little. Luke choked them a little. Okay. Yeah, I think if you choke people a lot, that's a Sith thing. And see, I think it was in the Robot Chicken Star Wars spoof. There's one where I think the Emperor says so. I don't know if someone says it. If Vader says there, I think the Emperor says it in the Robot Chicken Star Wars special. He just says something like, "Do you ever force choke yourself a bit when you're masturbating?" What? What? What the hell? Tindo, that's right. I've seen that joke in some web comics a few times, which is hilarious. What if like Vader force chokes a stormtrooper and the stormtrooper goes, harder, daddy, and Vader goes, what? And the stormtrooper's like, what? That's probably the perfect way to get Vader to stop force choking you. Yeah, if you say, harder, daddy, and he just goes, oh, what's wrong with you? Why did you have to make it weird? I always like that version of a joke though, where someone says something really questionable, and the other person says, "What?" And the person who says something questionable, "What? What did I say?" This one is like, yeah, Vader choking a stormtrooper who says, "Harder, daddy." What? What? All a bit weird. Emperor, there's one on Dorkly. Darth Vader's too good at force choking. I've seen variations of the joke a few times, and yes, I agree. It is a funny joke. It's but yeah, I honestly think that would put Vader off his game if you said that to him. Uh, yeah, it's kind of like with like later movies, people sort of tying themselves into knots, saying, "Oh, how did that happen?" And I was like, because Rogue One sort of reset the stage for the original Star Wars. Some people tied themselves to knots, like particularly the super cool stuff that Darth Vader did, like right at the end, that best ever Darth Vader moment, right at the end of Rogue One, where he fucks up all those rebels, and it's so hardcore. And he's just blocking their laser blasts and force choking them, slamming them into the ceiling. And people saying, like, "Oh, why did he do anything that cool in like the original Star Wars? Like the fight with him and Obi-Wan is so lame, and all the fights in the prequels were people jumping and bouncing. What? Like because okay, give him a break. Like with the original Star Wars, George Lucas hadn't thought of anything that cool. Okay, Star Wars was groundbreaking enough, and yes, some people have come up with a way to logically justify why Darth Vader was so apparently overpowered in Rogue One and comparatively underpowered in A New Hope. But it's just like, oh, dude, just let it go. It's just they put something cool in a movie for us. You off, Aussie Gun Bunny? I'm off soon too. Maybe around for another 15 minutes. So yeah, just like people overthink stuff so much. Like, why is this stuff in Rogue One that doesn't completely sit with stuff that's in the new? Because they gave us something cool. Okay, they gave us something cool. It's simple. And you might be already like, why didn't Vader and Obi-Wan fight with a really full-on fight like in the prequels in Star Wars? Well, when you think uh, the way some martial arts masters fight, they don't go full on. When they fight, it's incredibly controlled. They basically hold position and they look for openings to strike. And that's what Obi-Wan and Darth Vader do in A New Hope. They're both, Obi-Wan's peak Jedi, Vader's peak Sith, and they're just facing each other off, and they're not doing anything flamboyant. They're not doing anything showy. They're just looking for weaknesses in each other, and they're looking for opportunities to strike. Or you just got to look, they're just movies, man. Don't fucking overdo it too much. Oh, that's an interesting thing, Biori, because I've not really watched the animated series Rebels. You're talking about the comparison, the fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul in the prequel, and then Obi-Wan and Darth Maul in Rebels when they're much older. I didn't know that happened. That's interesting. Yeah, I think we're all on the same page that everything kind of makes sense in Star Wars. And kind of it's an out there fantastical adventure story. But people who overthink it are just fucking fiends, quite honestly. I always think of the nerds in The Simpsons asking weird, obsessive questions, like when Homer's Poochie, and he appears at the android's dungeon for a Q&A session with the woman who does Itchy and Scratchy's voices, and he just sort of, brings the nerds down like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And or also the Halloween episode that Lucy Lawless was in, where she has to go through the ridiculous shit with the nerds asking Xena questions. And when they ask her a really complex question, she goes, "It was wizards. If there's anything you don't understand or doesn't make sense, it was wizards." Okay. Wow, my fridge just out of the blue started making a lot of noise. Yeah, Priscilla, that's a good point. People who complain about the prequel lightsaber fights being too over choreographed when the original trilogy doesn't really have anything much at all to offer in uh, the lightsaber. Man, I love how good was in The Last Jedi the throne room fight, Rey and Dickface fighting the Praetorian Guard. It's like the best lightsaber fight ever. And the opponents don't really have lightsabers, but they have those energy weapons. It's just like Ben and Ray fighting those guys in red, the Praetorian Guard, and that is the best lightsaber fight there's ever been in a Star Wars film. That was so fucking good. Although some people have pointed out there's a weird thing they did in post production, where you have to watch really closely to see it. But one of the Praetorians has a thing where he has a weapon in both hands, and there's some edit, and then he only has a weapon in one hand. And it doesn't make any sense. It's like they fudged it through and hoped no one would notice, but someone went through frame by frame and picked it up. It's really weird. But yeah, that whole fight scene in Snoke's throne room was so fucking good. Don't know. You wanted to bring back the traitor stormtrooper from Force Awakens, but Han Solo killed him. Oh, weird bit of trivia. I don't know if anyone saw that, because I don't think that the makers of the film knew how popular that uh, character was going to be. The one who went traitor and had that electrical weapon and attacked Finn. Some dude who was an extra on the set, just some English dude, claimed that it was him who was traitor, and he became a bit of an internet celebrity because he said, "Oh, it's me. Yeah, I was just on set," and they just asked, "Does anyone have any sword fighting experiences?" "Oh, I did fencing, and they got me to play that role." And so he was an internet celebrity overnight for saying he was the traitor stormtrooper. And that went on for it was only a couple of days till the production people went, "No, no, that was an Asian weapons dude that we got in specifically to do that. That dude saying it was him is fucking lying." And he went, "Yeah," and then he copped to it and went, "Yeah, I was lying. I just wanted some attention. Sorry, it wasn't me. I lied. I was one of the stormtroopers, but I wasn't that stormtrooper. Sorry, I lied." So, Mr. Clayvader, you didn't like the fight except for when Kylo put the lightsaber right into the dude's face. That was good. I just think general. But look, and again, people aren't always going to agree on stuff, and that's fine. But I honestly reckon that Snoke throne room fight was fucking awesome. Search your for me, fan flame by hand shooting the bowcaster. Yeah, that was funny. But there's a whole bit about when Han fires it when the First Order are attacking, and it's like, dude, you've been with Chewbacca for decades. Is this literally the first time you fired his super powerful gun? That seems a bit weird to me. But yeah, but generally, I forgive a lot. It's like, okay, honestly, if the film's fun, I will forgive stuff that doesn't seem to make sense. And both The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi were fucking great as far as I'm going. Yeah, Bjorn, look at his face when he realized how powerful it is. Like, you fire it, people just don't fall down. The impact of the laser bolt sends them flying backwards. And that also ties into people who ignore stuff that's fed to them and go, "Oh, why was Rey able to hold her ground with Kylo? That doesn't make sense." It's like, for fuck's sake, they went to so much trouble to tell you that Chewbacca's bowcaster was this over-the-top powerful weapon, and Kylo got gut shot by it and keeps going. Anyone else who's been shot by it just got catapulted through the air and is fucking dead. But Kylo keeps going. And yes, that's how someone with virtually no training was able to hold their own against him, because he suffered a wound that on anyone else will be fatal. But his force powers let him hold it together. But he's massively weakened. Like, they fucking set it up. They set it up so clearly and showed it to you. That's why Finn was kind of able to hold his ground for a little while, and then Rey was able to actually beat Kylo, because Kylo has suffered what on anyone else would be a fatal wound, but he's able to keep going. I was like, dudes, they fucking spoon-fed that to you. Why do you not see that obvious thing? They fucking spoon-fed it to you. Jesus. Hey, video games. Your channel's a year old. Cool. Yeah, no, we're deep in a nerd Star Wars discussion at the moment. What's that, Emperor Seagate? You're a fan flame by everything in The Last Jedi, Force Awakens, Rogue One. Oh, yeah, the expanded universe. They just said, yeah, no, fuck it. The expanded universe doesn't exist. Because I think this, while I never read any of the expanded universe books or whatnot, and they just decided, oh, staying in line with the expanded universe makes our life too difficult. And so fuck it, it's all gone. We're just inventing new mythos now. And I do understand people who really bought into the expanded universe that felt a bit shitty, but that was just Disney and Lucasfilm just going, no, fuck it, it's way too hard to maintain the expanded universe. You got to go, Tendai. I am going soon as well. Video games, your only experience with expanded universe is Knights of the Old Republic. I'll tell you what, again, this is for people with long memories, people as old as me. When Star Wars was made, there was no guarantee of any sequels. And there was, in fact, a novelization sequel released by a reasonably well-known sci-fi writer called Alan Dean Foster. I've read a bunch of his stuff. And it was called Splinter of the Mind's Eye. And it's like an alternate universe sequel because they'd obviously gone, oh, wow, does Star Wars have any legs? Let's get someone to do a novelized sequel for it, which was reasonably popular. And they went, cool, now we're going to make a movie sequel. And so the Alan Dean Foster novel sequel, Splinter of the Mind's Eye, does not conform to either the original trilogy or the expanded universe. So it's just like an alternate reality sequel. It was not bad. Certainly, it did not bring in Vader was Luke's father, Leia was Luke's sister. None of that is in Splinter of the Mind's Eye. It goes completely differently. But it's not a bad read, but it's always been an alternate universe story, basically. Is pretty weird. Oh God, Charlie, canon and Doctor Who is weird as hell because there's not just the TV series and the old series versus the new series. There are all these novelizations and there's radio plays as well. And I've never read a novelization that was outside of the TV shows, and I've never listened to any of the radio plays that are outside the TV. Yeah, Doctor Who's just weird with continuity and canon and whatnot. Very fucking weird. Anyway, my wonderful friends, it's just on 10 o'clock. I am going to bid you all farewell and go off to bed. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm glad to. Oh, last minute thought shell former. Thoughts on Patrick Stewart returning to play Picard. Very interesting. I also heard they're thinking of developing the thing they've talked about for ages, Starfleet Academy series, and possibly another Star Trek series. They may be overreaching with the number of Star Trek series. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, Patrick Stewart's cool. So let's look forward to that. Thank you all for your time. I hope you look after yourselves. Have a good time. I hope to see you again soon. Until then, look after yourselves. Now we had a virtually troll-free night. How good is that? Okay, look after yourself, everyone. I look forward to catching up with you again soon. Bye for now.